wrote in an End Time magazine entitled Immigration or Invasion. I thought it was pertinent to share with you today because Dana wrote that the mainstream media is a willing accomplice with the globalists to distract from the real crisis, the dissolving of national borders, a major tenet of globalism. Using many progressives and liberals, globalists are doing their best to wreak havoc on the last formidable bastion of freedom, the United States of America. That is why this country is the primary target of destruction, with the disillusionment of its citizens as the bullseye. Polls report a strong majority of Americans, no matter what their ethnicity is, want the borders secured, a major tenet of nationalism. In the meantime, emotions are fueling heated arguments on this controversial issue. Several years ago, Dana said that she had the esteemed privilege of speaking with Dr. Art Wilson, Goodwill Ambassador and Special Envoy to the United Nations, about some of the inside workings of the United Nations. During this intriguing conversation, he made a statement about globalists who work in the UN, which she said has just haunted her since that evening. He said they want to make this country a trading post. Ambassador Wilson granted her this timely interview on immigration because, as he passionately stated, America is doomed if it does not recognize the challenge of the day. As a privileged insider, Ambassador Wilson is sharing this elite information with God's people because, as he warned, Americans should be concerned. God has me in this position, he said, to share with the people of God what I hear, so that they will be informed and won't be caught off guard. First, there is illegal immigration, which is a concern. Second, there is the issue that is going on at our southern border with the separation of children from their parents and the process of trying to gain access into our country, legally or illegally. Then third, it's our illegal refugee crisis. When we talk about immigration, it's not the fact that America is a country of immigrants, so then we should always keep our borders open. America is not a country of immigrants. America is a country that had times of immigration. Right now, America is in a position of war. We've been at a high, intense level of war since 9/11. The number one mandate when you are at a time of war and things have been destabilized is to close your borders so that you protect the citizens of the country from any kind of invasion, whether it's through immigration or a normal visa visit. You tighten your borders and your vetting process, which is going on in our country and in every country in the world except those nations that have been destabilized. Western areas that have not closed their borders are now facing a massive onslaught of attack because of immigration. What's going on in America is we have an uprising through the media where they are starting to attack our governmental system and report that we are unfairly shutting out people that need help, whether they are refugees or people that are running from hostile situations. Dr. Wilson went on to tell about the thousands of American children that have been separated from their parents because the parent had violated a law and were deemed unfit. He said these kids are lost in our foster care system and our other systems. We are letting immigrants get away with breaking our laws, yet we don't offer that same privilege to American citizens. The process in our country has been to remove children from parents involved in illegal or unsafe situations. He also pointed out that over 13 million American children live close to or in poverty, and no media outlet has reported on this topic. We're supposed to believe that we are racist people if we do not allow illegals to swarm our borders, bringing their entire families in tow? American taxpayers are to pay for feeding, clothing, educating, and incarcerating those who broke the laws after, ironically, their first act in our country was breaking the law. Many of them refuse to learn English and honor our flag. Rather, they bring their allegiance to their homeland and demand that we as Americans not only accept that, but give them the benefits and rights granted to citizens. Regarding the refugee issue, Ambassador Wilson passionately warned, it's getting ready to change the cultural makeup of our world. We're about to see history and all the things that we've read in our history books of the overthrow of the Roman Empire and the switching from one sovereignty to another. Ambassador Wilson continued to explain, if an immigrant who enters the country with a green card or visa is not willing to assimilate, he could become an enemy. Anyone choosing to come to this country needs to be loyal and assimilate into the American way of life. We should have zero tolerance for anything less. America has a system. America has a way of life. America has a culture. It seems America is getting an onslaught of terrorism and of religious radicals who are not assimilating. Some are challenging the American culture, which is going to be the fall of the American culture if we don't change our process at the borders, he said. The Founding Fathers emphasized the importance of assimilation as a condition to citizenship. We're about to see another shift because of the sheer fact that the birth rate is different between radical Muslims and everybody else, which could be forms of jihad. When they come into a country, within 20 years, they can change that country with the voting and educational process. They've trained their kids to control sovereignty, not assimilate to it. They are running for political office because they want to change the dynamics of a country. They are coming to take this country, and it's only a generation away from American citizens waking up and saying, "What happened?" Dr. Wilson presented this word picture. If America was invaded by 10 million soldiers on foot tomorrow, would the American people, with just 340 million, flee to Canada? Absolutely not. The American people will fight for their land, and they'll prevail. It's only 10 million soldiers, and we have arms. We have 300 million people that will turn into soldiers, and that is what any sovereignty would do. So when only 100,000 terrorists invade a Muslim country, why do millions of able-bodied men flee their country? On the topic of Muslim refugees, he added, 49% of them are military-age, strong, healthy men. They are coming with engineering ability, schooling, and strong forces. They are not running away from their homeland. They're coming to assimilate their culture over ours. In one generation, if not stopped, they will be outvoting you. They'll be in every position, and they'll be running our country. Many of them are coming to take over, like what has happened in other Western countries. According to Pew Research Center's Forum on Religion and Public Life, the world's Muslim population is expected to increase by 35% in the next 20 years. Globally, the Muslim population is forecasted to grow at about twice the rate of non-Muslim population over the next 2 decades, an average annual growth rate of 1.5% for Muslims compared with 0.7% for non-Muslims. They report that projections show the number of Muslims in the United States more than doubling over the next 2 decades, rising from 2.6 million in 2010 to 6.2 million in 2030, partly because of immigration and higher than average fertility among Muslims. Statistically, at the birth rate of the average Middle Easterner, if you remove 1 million people from 1 billion in the next year, that group will be replaced with another million, but they would have grossly destabilized where that original million went. So if you really want to make a difference with refugees, go there to help them. Spend all the money you would have spent on them over there. You would have kept the stability of your country. The ambassador dramatically concluded, America is doomed if it doesn't recognize that the greatest challenge of our generation is the immigration issue. The liberal media is willing to do anything because they've never seen such a successful president as Donald Trump. I am telling you this because I'm sitting in the meetings, he said. They feel like they've lost the country if they don't do something immediately. In a confidential conversation with a longtime resident along the Texas-Mexican border, he told Dana that the issue of family separation is basically a ruse. The real threat is the onslaught of military-aged men from the Middle East penetrating our southern border. The current administration is set on securing our nation, with one of the fundamental elements being an impervious wall on the southern border. While traveling extensively in California, Arizona, and Texas, he said, I have seen firsthand that the current wall is penetrable in countless places. We travel through border crossings, border patrol checkpoints positioned on highways and interstates, and drive along the border roads next to the existing, varying in height, wall. The dirt roads exist primarily for Border Patrol agents to monitor the international border. Because very few people joyride along the southern border, the agents stop us to ask why we're there. Courteous and willing to share testimonies of their jobs, the agents always add a warning about drug runners, what they call jumpers, and dangerous individuals in these vast areas. At the Border Patrol station in Arizona, we spoke with a crew of 3 Army personnel who monitor the expensive sector from a Black Hawk helicopter. The crew chief commented, I am so torn when I see dead bodies lying out in the desert. No discussion regarding immigration law on the southern border would be complete without interviewing line agents with the U.S. Border Patrol. Agent Salcido has worked in the Tucson sector for 11 years and graciously agreed to talk about this vital issue. The Tucson sector is the agency's largest sector, reaching from the New Mexico-Arizona border to the west side. As a patriot, Agent Salcido takes his job seriously and takes pride in upholding our nation's immigration laws. He passionately described his job near Douglas and bravely commented, "I accept that danger when I put on the badge. I never know what I'm going to get into each shift." As a Christian, Agent Salcido feels blessed to protect our nation in the first line of defense at a federal level. His primary role is to defend our nation's borders and interdict anyone attempting to breach those borders, either to enter illegally or smuggle humans or illegal contraband. He explained that Arizona is the front runner in immigration law enforcement. This is simply because the state enforces the federal immigration law and falls in line with the current administration. The state's support makes the job easier to do, he said. Arizona has a lower threshold compared to other states on who will be prosecuted. This factor alone emphasizes the importance of those who are elected to positions in local, county, and state government. Agent Salcido wants the public to understand why they do what they do and to understand that how they are being portrayed in the mainstream media is often biased and not accurate. He shared a compelling statement one of his law enforcement academy instructors told the class years ago. "If in the course of your duties," he said, "you have compassion for those you are apprehending, there's nothing wrong with that. It simply means you have a heart. But if your compassion is going to prevent you from enforcing the law, then this job is not for you." A senior Border Patrol agent who served as a line agent in California for 10 years and has patrolled in Texas for the last 12 years opened my eyes to many issues. Agent Ramirez pointed out, "My own ancestors came from Mexico. They came legally. Today, everyone wants a shortcut, or they do not have the means to do it legally." He explained the situation on the border and what we hear in the mainstream media and even governmental reporting is not accurate in many respects, he said. "We will deter a specific group, for example, of 10 individuals 4 or 5 times in one night. Then hours later, catch and arrest them. The report will read 50 deterred and 10 caught. It's the same people. Those caught are charged." And Agent Ramirez explained that illegals from Mexico are expedited for immediate removal and walked to the official border crossing. "It's a revolving door," he said. The Nicaraguan and Guatemala pilot initiative mandates that individuals from those countries are taken to a detention center. As soon as possible, an entire group is sent to court, found guilty, and deported. Remaining in handcuffs or shackles, they are flown to their home country and released to the officials. Agent Ramirez is part of a muster of 20 agents. Their area of responsibility includes 35 miles along the Rio Grande River that is divided into 4 zones. Because of the strong push to get cases processed, more agents have been moved to processing, leaving only 2 agents per zone, which should have twice the agents for effectiveness and the agent's safety. Referencing the zero-tolerance immigration prosecutions, the family fact sheet from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security at cbp.gov, the Attorney General directed United States attorneys on the southwest border to prosecute all amiable adults who illegally enter the country, including those accompanied by their children, for illegal entry. The initial law applied had to do with the unlawful entry and failure to depart, fleeing immigration checkpoints, marriage fraud, commercial enterprise fraud, etc. From first-hand experience, Agent Ramirez said that he believes around 70% of the families apprehended are true family units. Oftentimes, though, the parents have previously attempted to enter the United States and were deported. On a subsequent attempt to illegally enter the United States, another violation that has to do with re-entry of removed aliens, they travel with children, hoping this will allow them to stay. Children whose parents are referred for prosecution will be placed with the Department of Health and Human Services, an Office of Refugee Resettlement. If it can be determined that a parent remains in Central America, the child is deported. Otherwise, the child is released to other family members living in the United States, he said, or a family willing to sponsor the child. The child is given a court date to appear for final disposition of their case. Agent Ramirez sternly stated, "Many of the so-called children coming from Central and South America are not innocent. They have been indoctrinated into gangs, and some of these tough street kids have more than likely committed murders. When allowed into our society, these children influence our children. A sovereign government should not make decisions based on media pressure and polls, he said. He added that the protesters are a new generation that is coming up that does not understand sovereignty. Sadly, they already are making decisions for this nation or will be soon. He also pointed out that immediately after 9/11, the government reacted too quickly to scramble to fix the issue of immigration, and we are continuing to suffer as many of the decisions have hurt us in the long run. Agent Ramirez also encounters people from Egypt, Iran, China, India, Russia, and Cuba who are attempting to cross our southern border illegally. Finally, Dana interviewed a German immigrant. After obtaining a bachelor's degree in architectural engineering in Germany, Peter Doms left his hometown of Oldenburg to see the world. Well, in May 1984, he arrived in San Angelo, Texas, where he worked at an architectural firm for a year. He returned to Germany only to realize that educational and work opportunities were limited due to a recession. He was pleased when the Texas firm requested that he return. A year and a half later, after reams of paperwork, attorney's fees, and getting Speaker of the House Jim Wright involved, Peter was finally granted a green card. A green card is a permanent visa with no restrictions, excluding the right to vote. After getting a physical examination and going to the U.S. consulate, Peter returned to West Texas. In 1996, he obtained a master's degree and married a Texan. Then in 2001, he completed a doctorate degree and started his own consulting firm in 2005. Peter assimilated into American life and experienced the American dream. Even though Peter loved Germany and missed family, he felt like an American. After becoming a father, he realized the right to vote was the only thing missing, and this was paramount. So Dr. Doms applied for citizenship in early 2008. He completed an interview with federal officials in Detroit and learned the answers to 25 citizenship questions. At an emotional swearing-in ceremony with 50 other immigrants at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum in Grand Rapids on November 19, 2008, Dr. Doms was pronounced a naturalized citizen by a federal judge. Sadly for Peter, this was 2 weeks too late to vote in the presidential election. In response to the current immigration crisis, Dr. Doms gave these poignant statements. When I hear politicians state that America is a country of immigrants, I think, yes, that's true, but a country of law-abiding immigrants. Illegal means breaking the law. If they are truly needing to leave their country for fear of their lives, they have the option to apply for asylum. God-fearing citizens and patriots will continue to clash with globalists and activists. Frankly, it is up to each one of us to stand for our Judeo-Christian heritage and the United States Constitution, which form the backbone of this nation. The right to vote must be kept a distinctive privilege for U.S. citizens. If a person desires to vote, then they need to become a citizen, like Dr. Doms. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Jesus is the